Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 588, recorded live on Sunday, January 26th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Arkat. Welcome back.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's see. This week's screenshot, Adumar needs some instructions in the 448th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Ostort, for sending in this week's screenshot. I'm presuming that's from Schemes of the Enemy.
Yeah, it's from definitely House Kenneth. Although all that extra blue squiggly stuff, I gotta be honest with you, I've never actually seen that. Done this puzzle.
I believe it's the
To actually
control
see
panel
that.
to open the puzzle at the beginning of. I think it's Schemes. The one with the whatchamacallit, the cannon in the middle that bounces
Right.
around at the end.
Right. No, is that it?
I think so.
I
mean,
thought that was
there's one of those in there.
that,
That's how you find it. That's how you're supposed to figure out the combination of the puzzle. There's other
yeah,
ways
but
to do
there's
it.
also one of those in the one with the big two giant um crystal thingamabobs that you got to climb up the ladder to get to,
Sure.
and it takes forever. Those adamantine, what do you call it?
Yeah, the
There's
relays.
also one of these panels over there too.
Maybe. Anyways, we like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next Sunday, before a certain major event. And you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we'll have part 2 of our 2019 preview. If you're actually watching this on YouTube, yes, I know the numbers are going to be wrong when we get there. We recorded the 2019 review, and then the next week we had update 45 on preview on Lemania, so we talked about that last week, a lot. So that throws off all the numbering, of course. But in any case, we'll be talking about that. And all the normal stuff. And we get a producer letter to talk about today. Yay! Came out a little earlier this year, which is kind of nice.
It surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about game news. And kind of jump into it. We'll get to the producer's letter. Linabelle, our first little thing of note here, dropped a little fun nugget that for hardcore, she did some tinkering with the death system. It will now include the name of the hardcore death reporting will now include the name of the monster that killed you. And possibly also the quest. I think she was going to tinker with that as well.
Yeah, I think she did mention the quest. Yeah.
Yeah, someone asked about that, which leads to is going to lead to some very interesting results. Because if you've ever looked at your combat tracker, there are certain effects that tell you that you killed you.
Or is that something killed you?
Yeah. So there might be some interesting results through that system. So.
Right.
But I think that's kind of fun. Little.
Sure. No, and more information is always good.
Let's say. Well, it depends on if you're the one who died or not. I mean, if you're the one who died, there's a little extra embarrassment right there,
You were killed by Strimtom.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna say that, but yeah. Excuse me. Still getting over being sick. I'll try not to cough in the microphone. Let's see. Teleport. Hey, let's talk about this a little bit. So the Sharn teleport item, the boarding pass. One of the things that they're changing is they're putting an induction time on it. This is the time it takes to cast it, to activate it. It currently has none. They are changing that. Ostensibly not because of hardcore, although it was my kind of guessing of kind of something that hardcore provided some very great data for SSG. And I think one of the things that it may have illuminated is an opportunity to abuse this item as a get out of jail free card. So, a little bit more about this. So, funnily enough, the Sharn Teleport boarding pass started with this exact same induction time as the other teleport items. But when it was swapped over to be a teleport selector, which was, this is not her, this was a change that they made to give the boarding pass more value.
Yep.
When it came out, because when it came out, people kind of assumed that this was going to be the fastest way to get there, and then we found out that you could get to Sharn, the place that it spawned you, essentially by going on the airship. So they gave it 4 options to teleport to. So when that happened, the induction bar fell off the spellcast. Linnabel's change simply put the induction bar back to where it was when the item debuted. That being said, all of the teleport items are having their induction time halved with this upcoming patch, not just the Sharn one, which I think is great. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that the bottle of mist and the key, the Evening Star key. Um, I'm glad that that those are halved. It would be nice if the if the time that you could use it again, especially the Evening Star
The key,
key,
yeah.
that it would be nice if you could use that in half the time. But no, I guess it's okay to have the use time. It just bugs me that the boarding pass, that she added, the induction time back. I mean, it seems to me if you I remember what you said about that this wasn't necessarily to deal with what was happening in hardcore, but it seems to me, if it brought it to their if hardcore brought it to their attention, there's a reason why it brought it to their attention, and that most likely is they figured out that people were zooming out of a tough situation in hardcore so that they wouldn't die. If they wanted to add an induction time to it, I would be perfectly okay with it, but adding the induction time to the hardcore server version, I just don't see why it needs to be added to the live server
Cordovan
version.
did make mention that there is a performance issue with having no induction time. I don't know what that is, but I did see that brought up. I definitely would like to see the Evening Star key cooldown reduced, because
Yes.
it's an hour, which is a long
Yes.
time, and especially in a world of reincarnation, it's if you don't have the key, it's kind of a pain to get there.
Yes.
Uh, if so, and if you do have the key, if you put it on timer, it's a pain to get there.
Right.
So that's kind of an annoying thing. But they said that that's not being planned. I kind of get the sense that that is maybe mandated by people outside of SSG a little bit, but I don't know. Let's see. Moving along. They did say that Isle of Dread is not currently planned for 2020. They are still investigating the possibility of eventually adapting its DDO, but it is not currently on our schedule. It was not in the producer's letter, which is why people were asking about it.
Yeah, you know what that means, don't you?
What?
That means that Watsy told him not to do it. The
Possibly.
same sort of thing with the Anorak Desert. I mean,
Sure. I mean,
they were going to do that, and I
yeah.
think Watsy wanted to take the emphasis off of that, and I'm not exactly sure what it was at that particular year that they wanted to emphasize. I don't know if it was dragons or whatever, but the Anorak Desert just fell off the face of the planet. Just as Watsy introduced, it was the new year of the something or other, and that was the end of it. And I'm going to guess that we will never see Isle of Dread. Just a
Maybe.
guess.
I think there's still hope. We've got a lot of the other ones, so um, there might be some other things there too. Have they? I don't. Where's the Evil Baker when you need him? I was gonna say, have they released Isle of Dread in 5th edition?
No,
There could be.
not yet.
I could see there being a tie-in there or something, but yeah, we'll see. Mounts. Hey, let's talk about mounts. This was kind of neat.
Okay.
So Linabelle said that they've just finished a first draft of mount suppression tech, and she included a short video with this. So the idea here is that there are some outdoor tavern areas. Currently, if you run into them, you just get dismounted. She called out the 12 and the Meridia as ones specifically. So the idea here is that this will, instead of dismounting you, it'll just suppress it, which will, among other things, you'll actually still keep the movement speed, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's in a tavern, so who cares?
Yeah, I mean, but if you're kind of running past this actually happened to me the other day. I got on my horse and ran past the 1 and the 12, and got dismounted. I was like, oh, right, this is a tavern area.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is going to do a suppression thing instead of a dismount, so you won't have to click the thing and get back on the horse.
Right.
The airships will also use a suppression flag instead of a dismount. And she said that they're tentatively planning a global change that will allow vendors to deploy mount suppression to players that linger in their monitor, aka in the area around the vendor that will leave a shop window open. The radius is relatively small for a certain period of time. This would eliminate mount crowding around hotspot NPCs, but allow players just passing through to continue unhindered.
Right.
So I think
that's what my wife was complaining about was around the vendors. It was very difficult to click on the vendor when you have all these mounts around.
Trying to get through the horse butts. Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, the video looks very nice. The suppression tech looks really good.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Evil Beaker in the chat is saying Goodman Games did it with their revival product last year. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
There was a question about Alchemist and Past Lives, and what the order of where it would stand in the pecking order. The short version is it's going to go at the very end. So what we're really looking at here is you're tied. You're reincarnating, and your top 2 classes are tied with the same number of levels. What takes
10
precedence?
and 10.
Yeah. And so Alchemist is going to be at the bottom. Basically, the way it works is the standard classes that were... Are they all the free ones?
No, those are the original ones. So
yeah, I'm trying to think
all the way down to Bunk.
Yeah.
These were the ones that you started with when the game started.
I think those are all the free... well, here's the list. I'll just read the list. Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Wizard. Those are the classes that were out. And then it's the classes in the order they got added. So Monk, Favored Soul, Artificer, Druid, Warlock, Alchemist. Now, there's a note here that currently Warlock and Druid are currently flipped on live. That will be fixed in update 45. So currently, if you're 10 Druid, 10 Warlock, you'll get a Warlock pass live. In the future, and once update 45 goes live, you will get a Druid pass live.
Right.
So that would be a very strange build, but some people do that.
It could happen.
I know Drac has one. I don't know that it's 10-10, but I know he's got a Druid Warlock because he does Eldritch Blasting in Wolf form, which seems kind of weird that would actually work, but whatever. All right. So there were some updates to update 45. So this is kind of the upcoming preview 2, which is expected to open the afternoon of Tuesday, January 28th, and remain open until late afternoon Thursday, January 30th, with a dev event on January 29th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, where members of the DDO team will be available to collect feedback and answer questions in real time on Lemania. There's not any new features other than a bunch of bug fixes and stuff. However, they did do a bunch of... there's going to be many changes. They've announced some of them, but there will be full release notes on Tuesday when the servers are brought up. One of those changes they announced with Knight of the Chalice for Paladin, an Ascendancy in Tier 5 will now also add 15% fortification bypass in addition to its other features. This is to help crits land a little more often. Some other things that they're tentatively planning: two-handed fighting. The two-handed fighting feat now raises your damage bonus from your ability score modifier to 2 times that modifier in addition to its other effects. Increase that to 2.5, greater to 3 times. So before, greater two-handed fighting pushed it to 2 times. The goal here is to push single target two-handed DPS past where currently does on live to compensate for the loss in single target damage from glancing blows. They're getting away with glancing blows with strike through. That means that you don't get glancing blow on the target you're actually attacking. Across several builds they've tested with this change, a small number broke even with their live damage numbers, but most pushed ahead of their live damage numbers. So that's kind of what they're going for there. Additionally,
sorry to interrupt, but a lot of talk about people wanting to starting to think about playing barbarians now with this particular change.
Yeah, I think it's good. Two-handed fighting has been lagging behind for a while. The glancing blows thing is fun, but I feel like my general experience is that it kind of actually tends to do more harm than good. Because if I jump in there and hit 10 things, suddenly 10 things are mad at me. And this is not great for my own survival. There's some other things that barbarians are getting too, like the is it 10% health? I think in the Ravager tree, I think was what it was. Was it 5%? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
They do get a they're one of the places where there's a new hit point boost in the enhancement trees. Anyways, most single target special attacks should also now allow you to strike through, hitting 2 or 3 targets. Those include Smite Evil, Exalted Smite, Hamstring, Sap, Slicing Blow, Sunder, Improved Sunder, Trip, and Improved Trip, and Stunning Blow. The trip and Stunning Blow, that's kind of fun.
Sure.
Actually, because presumably then you could trip multiple things at a time.
Sure. Somebody was talking about a possibility of some of the monk things, like, for example, Touch of Death from what do you call it, Ninja Spy, and
I don't think that's going to work though.
It's not listed in here, but somebody was talking about it in Discord. And
don't you need to be? Are you talking about Quivering Palm?
Quivering Palm and Touch of Death.
So the thing that immediately would lead me to think that you won't be able to use a lot of those is because many of them are hand wrap specific. You have to be using fists, which is not two-handed fighting. It's unarmed.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So now, but I'm not really sure because the Henson Mystic one has the Void Strike, which I think you can use with a quarterstaff.
Yeah, you can use that with a quarterstaff.
So that could possibly be used as well. So with this change, Strike Through should work on most attacks that aren't already AoE, AoE attacks will act as they currently do, which in most cases should be better than Strike Through. They did have one notable exception: falconry attacks, which will not strike through because multiple clone birds, while hilarious, aren't something they're aiming for.
Sure.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
All right, and then another one they're looking at: Divine Might and Trance Balance. All right, so these are the cookies that give you bonuses based on stats and stuff. They're changing a bunch of them. I think they're changing all of them. All instances of Divine Might, so this is a Cleric, Favored Soul, and Paladin, are now Battle Trance. You gain an insight bonus to attack, damage, and the DC of tactical feats equal to half of your Charisma modifier for 30, 60, 120 seconds. Note that it's insight bonus. War Soul's Divine Will is now Battle Trance. You gain an insight bonus to attack, damage, and the DC of tactical feats equal to half your Wisdom modifier. The Divine Might, Divine Will, Harper's Know the Angles, and Falconry's Deadly Instincts damage components now provide an actual insight bonus to damage, as their tooltips claim they do. Meaning, They all provide damage to both melee and range attacks. They do not stack with other insight bonuses to damage. The ones that provide attack do not stack with other insight bonuses to attack.
Does that mean it wouldn't stack with Insightful Deadly, for example?
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
So mileage may vary here.
Yeah, another thing that they're doing about Divine Might is they're making it truly a spell point cost for paladins instead of using their turn undeads for it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Was it
that'll
not
be nice for
before?
the paladins. Beg your pardon?
I didn't realize it was using turn undeads. It's been a while
Yeah,
since I've done
I
much
think
about
the
paladin.
one in Knight of the Chalice is using turn undeads.
Interesting. Paladin turn undead is kind of a oof.
Yeah. Well,
What?
turn undead in general sucks, but even more so for paladins.
Yeah, paladins don't get a whole lot of love for it. You really just want something to be able to use your turn undeads with as a paladin that's meaningful.
Yeah.
I think one of the changes in the stalwart tree, they're actually taking away a use of turn undeads. Don't get me wrong, it's better now, but it was one of the nice things about nice use for it. You were asking about stacking, and someone in the chat is actually asking what did not stack with before. I don't know. Probably it stacked with a lot of things because, as the note says, their damage components now provide an actual insight bonus damage as they claim to do. So that's fixing a bug. There is a I'm not sure how much of it was insight before. This is not something that I've really tracked a whole lot, to be honest. It does help with gear Tetris, though, like if you throw these in. But I think the nice thing about this, too, is in a backhanded way, it means not everyone, like if you already have insight bonus attack and damage in DC, maybe you don't need to get this in your build. You're not losing out as much. It kind of reduces the, quote, need for it.
Right. And also saves you a few, action points.
Yeah. War Soul Divine's presence is now redundant. It now does exactly what the new Divine Might does and has been removed. So Steel Star said, for most builds using Divine Might, this change comes out the same attack and damage numbers. For two-handed weapons, it comes out somewhat lower, but should be compensated for in the above two-handed changes. If it isn't offsetting that well enough, we can make further changes before it goes live. If you have feedback on that, give them actual numbers feedback. That's what's going to make it change. One concern expressed by the players who've already seen the changes above two-handed fighting changes was that the existing Divine Might will become nearly mandatory on two-handed fighting builds, including barbarians, fighters, etc., since bonus to strength would be amplified considerably further than it used to do. Right, because they currently add bonuses to your strength modifiers instead of damage and accuracy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Since the strength bonus will be amplified considerably further than it used to. They wanted to ensure that wouldn't be the case this wouldn't cause anyone to lose attack, so they've added that to Divine Might and Divine Will. This makes those slightly stronger than Know the Angles and Deadly Instincts in those respects, but they're all right with the class-based versions granting attack, while the universal tree-based ones do not. This should be a buff for many characters using alternate to hit and to damage stats, as well as to divines who use the skills at scale with tactical feats, which now work with strike through as above. Yay! So kind of unpacking some of that a little bit. Instead of it being tied to a specific stat, more people can use it. That's cool. The interesting thing is, like they said that it should be a buff for many characters. I mean, but if you're using like my fighter, I know he has at least insightful combat mastery. Unless it's that, this will probably still boost it above that, but probably has insightful accuracy, but I know he's got insightful damage. So in the grand scheme of things, though, at least for me, it's probably not going to impact me all that much because I'll be honest, I'm terrible at remembering to use it. So all right, should we talk about the producer's letter?
I guess if we have to.
Oh, come on, be excited. So, Servalin published the 2020 producer's letter. If you're wondering why it was earlier this year, they just got it checked off faster. That's really all it is. So he says, we are entering a new decade with grand plans for Dungeons & Dragons Online. I was writing today to share some of our ideas with you. The past decade plus has been an amazing adventure, and we thank you for being a part of it. I just want to stop there, because that is true. I mean, they launched SSG, and as far as I know, I've never heard of a, not that I pay attention to this kind of thing, I've never heard of a gaming studio like launching with two existing properties and just kind of going for it. Like, they still haven't produced a new game. They're just producing these two games.
Right.
Which I'm a little shocked by, actually. I kind of assumed they would have developed something new. But cool.
It's as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy they're just concentrating on the two games, because
Sure.
that's more resources that you can devote to something that I'm playing.
And it
So
speaks to their vulnerability, right? Or
their
viability.
viability. Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
yeah, for sure.
Right. Plug it along just fine. All right, so he says, we're kicking off 2020 with a bit of polish and refresh to two of DDO's most historic adventure packs, the Catacombs and Delara's Tomb. Both of these adventures will get epic versions in the next game update. I don't think we mentioned it, but I think Catacombs is 23, Delara's Tomb is 27.
That's correct.
This also features the previously announced Alchemist class. Expect update 45 to arrive in February. Woohoo!
I think it's the first week in February. I think is what Cordvan or somebody on the forum said. But
I know
could be
people
the
are
second week.
speculating, right? If
Yeah,
it's coming out Limited this week, and then maybe they iterate, it comes out the week after that. I don't know. 2 or 3 weeks, I would say.
yeah, I would say the second week is probably more likely than the first.
Let's see. He continues. Season 1 of Hardcore League was met with enthusiasm and excitement, so we're making it a reoccurring event. In Season 2, Mortality will be replaced by DDO's classic foe, Eratricos, who will empower new champions with devilish powers. Expect future seasons to test your skill in how you build and play characters, in addition to new rewards. You will read more about these changes as we near future seasons. I don't understand why they're replacing Mortality.
I don't either.
Why? Like, why is it we...
Mortality was a vendor. You want to make Aratricos a vendor now too?
Why?
I don't know. I
mean,
think it's just. I think this bullet point was just poorly written by whoever wrote it.
I am excited about continuing Hardcore League. I don't want it to be too often though, right? Like, that's the big thing.
It should be once a year, maybe twice a year at most.
I'm fine with once. Once is great.
Yeah.
That's totally fine with me. Once for 3 months, I think that works. If you do it more than once a year, it needs to be shorter than 3 months. And then
I could see twice
get
for
concerned.
2 months.
I get concerned about it being, because it took me 2 months to do what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it gets shorter than 2 months, I don't know how much time you have. Like, people are just not gonna have time to do some of the stuff.
Right.
But I am interested to see what they do for new rewards, and I hope they have different benchmarks. I think a level 30 benchmark is needed to get people into epics more. That was kind of the thing.
I'm guessing a lot of people stopped when they got to around 20 or early 20s.
Or people went to 20 and then reincarnated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. 2020 will also bring a long-standing community request to the game, a 64-bit client. The 64-bit client can improve the overall performance of the game for many, and we look forward to its release later this year. We also have user interface improvements planned for the shared account bank to make it easier to sort, store, and access items you've collected. Other quality of life improvements are in the planning stages as well, and we'll talk more about it later this year. Yay!
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad to see the 64-bit client. That will be useful for many different things, but one of those could be the UI scaling, user interface scaling, which should be super helpful. And I'm glad to see the shared account bank improvements. So if you can do a search or you can sort them, that would be awesome.
Please add to TR Cache.
Yeah, that'd be good too. That'd be great. Absolutely.
I understand they don't want us to keep stuff in there, but one, we do. because
Right.
you just don't have space to put it all. And it's a pain to find stuff in there because it's just
Yep.
random.
Yep.
All right. Continuing on, spring will bring a new adventure pack set in Stormreach, where the gatekeepers need your help to determine the fate of some missing acolytes in the Cerulean Hills, and investigate the sudden appearance of a strange hut in the harbor. Interesting.
So I'm curious. I know the Cerulean Hills is obviously a very low level, outdoor adventuring area, but does that mean that these extra, quests are going to also be, lower level as well?
Don't know. I mean, it's been pretty common that new packs get a heroic and an epic area.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised if this was kind of in the post Keep on the Borderlands level range to kind of give a new option in that range.
Okay, so like
Which would
what, like
be
3 to 5, and then
yeah.
24 to 26 kind of range?
Maybe. I'm not sure where that's gonna land on the other end. That's kind of more of a crapshoot.
Sure.
But I think something in that like 3 to 5 to 6ish range maybe might be pretty good, because that's what the quests there right now are level 3, the two that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of a guess. Other stuff he says is, in the summer we're considering a new adventure pack in addition to some legendary versions of well-known raids, but we want to keep that unannounced for now. Basically,
Tease.
yeah. May change. Highly likely to change.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want a legendary Titan. I'm gonna say that now.
If they fix the stupid laser, function and all that, yeah, I would love to see that, because that's one of the raids that I've actually run the least, because it was so screwed up for a very long time that not many people ran it at all, if they ran it, if they ran it at all. So I would like to see a, a, a legendary Titan raid, and
If they
and a
fix
few
the
other.
issues I have with it, sure. It has
Yeah.
such a low margin of error because you have to hit it with six of the 8 pillars and land the laser in that time frame. Which
Hmm.
means if you fail 3 times at that, you're done.
You're done. Yeah.
And I like having the ability to recover. That's what makes it really interesting, right?
Hmm.
So if you can't, and there's no recovery there, and there's so many things that could go wrong, and but hey, legendary versions of well-known raids could be fun.
Sure.
Although I'm trying to think what I guess they're only epic versions, but I mean we've got an
Right.
epic or legendary version of Vaughn, DQ. Fall of Truth is an epic version of Reaver's Fate.
TOD.
That one would be good. There's room for that for sure.
How about the Master Artificer and the Lord of Blades?
It has epic versions.
Right.
But yeah, I mean those are two of my favorite raids in the game, so I'm not. They'll have to. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Like, does this? Most of the raids actually have an epic version.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm up for more raids. That's fun. As we gaze further into the second half of the year, we are thrilled to share some news about our next expansion, which seems kind of fast.
Yeah.
I
That
like
worries me.
how much time was there between Ravenloft and Sharn? It was about a year and a
I
half,
want to say
right?
about a year and a half, like 18 months.
So this would be about the same, actually, because Sharn came out last May, I think. So if it comes out August, September time, maybe. Uh,
Yeah, it
anyways,
would have to come in at the end of the year.
it does say the second half of the year, so see players travel into the mystical plane of the Feywild. Joining characters on their trip will be the next new player character race, the Shifter, capable of temporarily embracing their bestial aspects to rend enemies and survive. Another thing we can say today about the upcoming Feywild expansion is that you will need to learn new and powerful ways to overcome challenge, and doing so will gain you the experience necessary to push past level 30 for the first time in DDO history. Not excited about going past level 30, huh?
Nope, not in the least.
I do want to. We'll stop right here and say, because this was mentioned a few times, there are no changes expected to the current reincarnation system. So you will not need more XP to do an epic reincarnation or an iconic reincarnation or anything like that.
You'll just need to do a different reincarnation, and the speculation
Maybe.
is that it's going to be called the legendary reincarnation.
Maybe. I was trying to think of what does level 30 plus look like. Like, what do I want that to look like?
It's going to be just more of the same. It's just going to be, like level 31 is going to be this just a slightly bit better than level 30, and it would be one thing if they could say, level 31 to 40 or whatever it is, 31 to 35, whatever however high the cap goes. Yeah, it would be nice if they if everything was if it was like a totally different way to advance. I don't know. That it didn't rely so much on experience points as it
Interesting.
does, I don't know, skill points or something, for example. I mean, if it was a completely new way to advance, then it might be interesting. But I just get a feeling it's just going to be, super DDO as opposed to, an actual new DDO.
I kind of figured it would be like a dumbed down version of epic levels. Like maybe, because probably not giving us a skill point or a +1 to all skills every level continuing, but something generic. I think it has to be something generic, right? Like,
Well, they dumbed down Olympic levels as it were. I mean, you would be hard pressed to convince me that they could dumb down Olympic levels any further than they have. But okay, go ahead.
But the interesting question is, if you hit level 33, do you get another Scion feat?
Who knows?
It could be interesting. Some other things that I kind of toss around in my head would be that they could do is something like like the Reaper enhancement trees, like a legendary enhancement tree could be an option.
See, now that might be interesting.
Something like that. Something similar to Epic Destinies, but kind of more of a generic, even more generic, kind of like the Reaper trees. I don't know. What to see. The end of the letter says, we have other surprises in store for 2020 as well, but the above is a high-level roadmap of the current schedule. As always, the roadmap can change, and we will endeavor to let you know the things that are, how things are going as plans become realities. We are very thankful to support your support of this game for more than a decade, and we are thrilled to embark on a new decade of adventure with you. Sev. Yeah, so there you go. There are some questions that people posed and got some answers. The racial variant project is currently on the back burner with no ETA ready to announce. Not to say that it will never release, just that we're not currently able to commit to when, if it will.
So does the racial variant project, is that the same as the Wood Elf racial variant? And also, does that
Yes.
also encompass iconic?
No.
Okay.
Wood Elf is a racial variant. That's what
Right.
that whole thing. I kind of wonder if, because Wood Elf is not free. I think you had to buy it. I kind of wonder if maybe it was not as good of a seller as they wanted it to be.
It's very possible.
So that would be kind of my guess there. Yeah, what elf you have to buy? So that would be kind of my guess. It is not an iconic. That's different than iconics. And in fact, I'm kind of hoping, Shifter Barbarian iconic. I feel like that could work.
It's either going to be the Shifter Barbarian or the Shifter Druid.
you know, generally speaking, they haven't really done too many that are like really on the nose, right?
Tell me about it.
Like Asamar's the Ranger. That was unexpected for me, anyways.
Right.
Blade Forge Paladin, Deep Gnome Wizard. That one's a little more.
That's a little more believable.
Well, they're all believable, but I like that a lot of them are very. Tiefling Bard. I mean, that works really well, and it's interesting.
Should have been a Warlock. Should have been Tiefling Warlock.
I know, but I kind of like that they're a little.
Yeah.
They're a little asymmetrical. It doesn't really work with the name, but anyways, I'm really Shifter Barbarian. I think that could work really well. So, I think they'll probably do an iconic. They haven't really. I don't think they've released an expansion without an iconic yet. So, because I mean, they need, if for another reason, they need something. The iconic is usually in that higher price point, right?
Yes.
So, I'm sure there'll be an iconic there. I don't know. Druid just seems a little too on the nose. They're already a shifter.
It's too obvious.
Well, I mean, yeah. Anyways, the racial variant is on hold. Someone wrote in saying that I am concerned about Season 2 Hardcore League cannibalizing the live server player population like it did in Season 1. There was a steep decline in the number of people available at level cap for raiding and doing high school content, and it made me not want to log in. How does SSG plan to address this? The response was, we are aware of this and have been discussing internally ways to mitigate the effect for future hardcore seasons. That being said, we have no changes meant to address this to announce at this time. So not a lot there, but I think it's helpful to know that they're discussing it and they're aware of that as an issue. Let's see. They do not currently intend to remove the 32-bit client when the 64-bit client is released. If that plan changes, they'll provide notification.
That's the way that they do Latro now. They support both
Yeah.
32-bit and 64-bit client for them. So
I mean,
I imagine it'll stay the same.
The only reason I could think of that they're going to stop supporting 32-bit clients is if there's like some reason technology-wise, why the servers can't do both anymore or something. Like if that happens, we're all going to be switching off of 32 bits anyways. So that would be my kind of assumption. Someone asked if we're going to use 64-bit client, can we get an increase to plat cap? And it said, do not believe so. No, the platinum cap is a server-side restriction and should, he believes, this is Coco Majobo, be unaffected by client-side changes.
Yeah, see, now here's a problem with that. Windows 2003 server was the first OS server OS. I believe it was the first server OS that you could either get it in the 32-bit or 64-bit version. And starting with Windows 2008 server, it was pretty much all 64-bit, or rather, it was mostly 64-bit with a few people getting their 32-bit version of the clients. Now, with Windows 2012 server, it's all 64-bit. 2012 server and 2016 server, it's all 64-bit server. So the question is, what version of the Windows OS does the current do the current live servers run on? Now, it's certainly possible that the version of the game on the servers might be a 32-bit, in which case the older the older operating systems are still supporting that. But if they ever move to a newer version of the server, they would have to. I think they would pretty much have to change the game side, the server version of the game to a 64-bit version.
If they haven't already.
Well, if they have changed the server version of the game to 64-bit already, then the platinum cap is almost,
artificial.
I don't know, yeah, exactly. It would be like 16 terabits or whatever, 16 bajillion platinum you could have instead of the 4.3.
Because that
4.3 million.
That I believe is or at least it's been stated that it was like a bit
yes.
restriction. Right?
It is.
So they may, I don't know, even if they have the technology to increase the cap, I don't
Why
know.
would you?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
like
mean, platinum
having,
really isn't useful. I mean, who cares?
well, the other thing is, uh, if there's a cap, people can't hoard it to a certain extent, right? You can only
Right. Well, you
have
have to
so
spend
much.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that promotes economy. Now, it would help if they stopped releasing every new item in the game as bound to account, so you could, put stuff on the auction house. But that's another problem. Anyways, hotbar management and bloat is a concern that they are actively thinking about when designing the post level 30 systems. Thank you. They're designing the level cap increase with these concerns in mind. You will not make a hard commitment on that. Some of these concerns will not end up becoming reality with the level cap increase. However, I will say that they're going into the design process this time cognizant of the pitfalls that have occurred in previous level cap increases. Some of the things that those included were changing how reincarnation level works, or like extra XP for that.
Invalidating all the old gear.
Yeah, gear invalidation, that kind of stuff.
And probably a more maybe subtle, if not overly obvious problem, the further stratification of the player base.
Sure. Content was like not having enough content. There was another thing that came up.
Sure.
Although it kind of feels like that's. I mean, we already have a lot of quests that are like Sharn's all like 31, 32, right? We've got a bunch of quests that are 30 to 32, 33. Um, so depending on how far up they go, I don't know how much that's going to be a problem. Having said that,
Right.
obviously we're already doing that content at level 30, so does it get trivialized and stuff like that? But, bonus days. 20% guild renown through today, January 26th. The sales, hack and stash, 20% off of Slayer boost, loot boost, treasure hunter elixirs, and select shared storage through January 30th. You can also get a plus 20 crafting success booster times 25 with the coupon code CRAFT20. If you don't have a crafter leveled up as far as you want, my recommendation is to grab that, stick it in your bank, wait for a crafting XP weekend, pull them out, use them then.
Yeah.
Be kind of the good way to go. I should have asked, is there anything else you want to say about the producer letter before we move on?
I just, the 30, just the increasing the level cap past 30 is the thing that honestly that depressed me, quite a bit, and I'm still kind of down about it. It has me even thinking about leaving the game, if
Interesting.
if it's raised past 30. It's just already it's enough. I mean, there's already enough experience out there that people need to get. It has to be the levels above 30 have to be, so the game has to be so different than the levels, than 30 and below, that game. It's got to be so different that that would make it seem worth it to go there. I'm skeptical.
Or what if it was so it wasn't really that much of a note, you didn't notice it that much? Like if it was just more hit points and a couple of feats. Like if
It
it was,
depends on the, it
yeah,
depends on the grind. I
depends on
mean,
the implementation and stuff. Sure.
yeah. I mean, I've got, Patrick, you know what I'm talking about. You and I are both altaholics. We both
Yeah.
have like, 20 tunes that are, either at or very close to cap, or in my case, I got a fifth level guy who, I'm going to get to cap and probably leave him there for a while. This just makes it very, very much, it makes it very hard for me to consistently play all my alts, because I like the different styles of play.
Right.
But just having to constantly grind for experience like this, it makes it almost impossible for me to enjoy all alt play.
Yeah, I think that I see what you're saying. My own experience has been that level cap increase is not the thing that makes alt play harder for me. It's the and even gearing to a lesser extent, but we start talking about like Reaper points and past lives. That's what makes it really hard to
Sure.
and more so than anything, like the Reaper points and the racial past lives, I think is what really kind of tips that scale for me into these like I am never gonna get all of these characters to the point where
Right.
like they are not going to keep up
Right.
because of those things, because the power inherent in extra racial action points and Reaper XP is so much greater than the other past lives, the heroic past lives. Not a huge thing. I mean, there's power there to be sure. I'm not discounting that, but I have never felt that power separated me from other people or like let them get leapfrogged ahead, except in the case of DC casting.
Right.
Epic lives to a lesser extent that's been true. But yeah. All right, let's talk about community news. The 367th Chronicle. Phoenix has created a new named gear planner that could be of great help.
Have you seen that? It's actually very cool.
I didn't play around with it or anything, but I did see it. Yeah. Did you play with it?
I haven't actually played around with it much, but because what I want to do with it, I want help with my gear Tetris issues, because there's
Which
just
there are
so
many.
much stuff out there,
Yeah.
level 28, 29 stuff out there, that it's just hard for me to to do gear planning these days.
My understanding is this is a tool that you can look at each slot and figure out what's named loot, not random and crafted, but named loot, kind of figure
Right.
out what's available and search for things by abilities
Yes.
and all this kind of fun stuff, which
Yep.
sounds amazing.
Yes.
So there you go. That's gonna get a lot.
Yeah, the UI looks fantastic, and
Yeah, it did. I heard that he's releasing version 5, or working on version 5.
yeah, 0.5 I think is probably out by now.
Yeah, so go whack at it with a bunch of hammers, and come up with some things for him to work on. But it looks really cool. It's probably a far cry better than my current strategy of gearing, which is just look at the new stuff.
Yes.
Is there something that I want that and then look at what that replaces? Like, okay, what's on that I'm losing, and how do I get that back if I need it?
The gear cascade is just
right?
daunting. Yeah.
It's so daunting, in fact, that when the new Sharn stuff came out, I took one look at it for my tank and said, I'm just going to reincarnate a whole bunch and forget about it for a while.
Put it off. Just make the decision later.
Loosely true.
Yeah.
The High Lords of Malkir are hosting their teaching raids on Saturdays. They did Fire on Thunder Peak and Temple of Deathworm yesterday. The comment, why don't spell components have an expiration date?
Oh, shoot.
Because no one's invented stamps. Can't stamp it. I don't know.
I don't know. Some of these things don't come to me straight straight to mind, and then it's just like I forget it and I move on.
Let's see. We got a shout out for previewing update 45 last week. DDO Players News also had an episode, and Damsels of DDO ventured in the Keep on the Borderlands. Let's see. DDO Stream is a great place to find people streaming DDO, and this week's shows include Brighter Days Ahead Tonight. You need to rename that. Brighter Days Ahead Tonight.
Ahead Tonight.
Yeah. Psycho Blonde and Samus Grobo. Also on Twitch, Apocalypse Dom, two-manned Curse of Strahd. It's pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Someone soloed it, I think, at one point, which is just phenomenally impressive.
For sure. Especially when there are all the tombs and you have to do the torches all in a row.
DDO Deep Reap runs R10, and Skull Priest 1210 makes progress. On YouTube, Ice Damon does a couple quick runs. Axel delved into the producer's letter. and subtle aggro Zerg proof is in the poison. Let's see. I think we kind of talked about all this other stuff. Don't forget to check out the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream with Cordovan. Check it out. Let's see. D&D night on DDO stream Sundays 7 p.m. Eastern time. Twitch.tv/DDO stream. Always a lot of fun doing that. DDOCast will be back this week. We're gonna be kind of on a some weeks on, some week off kind of a thing for a little while. Before we break for the spring and baseball season, and then we'll be back in the summer at some point. General gaming news. This is kind of an interesting thing that kind of came across. So Daybreak is, I guess, splitting into multiple studios. I think I saw somewhere like they're gonna split in like 3 different gaming studios or something.
Yeah.
But under the same like umbrella publishing. I don't know. I didn't dive into it a whole lot. However, Daybreak publishes for SSG. So, of course, people are like, hey, hello. Scary. Cordovan wrote a few times, this announcement is expected to have no impact on us being SSG, how we work, or what we do.
Right.
So this should not
Daybreak
impact
is
SSG.
it's just a publisher. They're just the publisher. They're the ones that, I don't know, get
Well,
the
they have a
stuff out
studio,
there.
too, I think, right?
I don't think SSG is one of
In terms
part
of
of their
SSG.
company as
I
far as like
understand.
a studio is concerned.
No, I think Daybreak is just the publisher, and I think
Right.
they provide some resources that essentially SSG, essentially a small business, then doesn't have to provide for itself. That Daybreak can help them with. I believe some of that includes like HR stuff and things like that.
Okay.
The things that every business has to deal with, things like certain things, and if you're really small, then
Yeah, they might make the deposit, the direct deposit, or like you said, the HR stuff.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that that's some of the stuff that they leverage, and then also
Sure.
maybe some marketing tools, possibly also the store, or I don't know. I'm not a business person and don't claim to be. But the big news, the big idea here is what's going on at Daybreak is not expected to impact SSG in any way, shape, or form. They partner with Daybreak as far as I'm aware. So they're not like owned by Daybreak or anything like that.
Right.
So, all right, I think that's it. You got anything else you want to say on the way out here?
No, other than to say that I'm looking forward to Kasplat on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, it should be fun. Tower of Despair.
Yep.
Should be fun. Speaking of raids. Right. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Arkat and all the other contributors for DDOCast. Thanks to Saying His Own Games, to Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can find us on Patreon. You can also get to Patreon through DDOCast.com. There's links on the right. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, email us at ddocast@gmail.com. I forgot to mention, in regards to the support, the Trents, who were the producers before me, have been taking care of a lot of the web stuff, the hosting services, for many years, at no cost to DDOCast. However, they are now, as life goes on and stuff, they are looking for some more support from a lot of the people that they've been providing that services to. Which, of course, we are going to provide DDOCast. But there's an opportunity there for everyone who listens. If you want to help the Trends by them helping us with DDOCast, giving to DDOCast is a way that you can do that. If you have any questions about that, you can email me, ddocast@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer any of that stuff. But I just wanted to let people know about that. They're asking for DDOCast to pay $50 through the year, just to help offset the costs of what they do for us. So, other stuff, you can hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment or you can email us, DDOCast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media at DDOCast on Twitter is the best place for the latest cast updates. So stick around. We'll have part 2 of our update of our 2019 year in review after this. All right, welcome back to part 2 of our 2019 review. Last time we talked about Update 41 and Update 42, and we're going to jump right back into things here. We got a full house today. I'm just going to run down the list really quick and let them say hi. We got Vooduspyce.
Hey, everyone.
Nimvind.
Merry Nimbus.
Arkat.
Good afternoon.
And Asheras.
Hey, hey.
So welcome back, guys. We've had some fun discussion, I think, so far, talking about updates 41 and 42. There's only 2 more updates to talk about. We only had update 41, kind of a recap, came out December 5th of 2018, and then kept patching. I did actually look it up while we were talking. The last patch of update 41 was in April. So in May, we got update 42 for Sharn. I didn't actually look too close, but we may have actually gotten a patch every month. Kind of feels like. So update 43 came out in September. Update 44 came out in November. So the first part of the year, not a lot of quests. I mean, we got 1 quest in December. I'm not sure when update 40 was. Let's see, update 40 came out in October. And I don't even remember what update 40 was. But so we didn't get a lot of quests for a while. Let's see, update 40 was killing time. So we got a raid. Which may have actually, Voodoo, you were talking about last time, like it felt like this long period of time where we weren't getting a lot of content.
So my point there was that, if that's the price of us getting an expansion, I don't know how, I mean, I do really want expansions, but I really don't like 5 months without content.
I mean, it was almost more than that. If you think about update 40 was killing time, update 41 was Lost at Sea. Update 39 came out in July of 2018 and gave us White Plume Mountain. So that was kind of the last time coming into Sharn that we really had some content to really chew on.
But at the same time, big picture, we are getting a lot of quests.
Yeah.
I mean, these updates are seeing more quests than we've seen in years. And so,
we didn't get
in
much
the big
until
picture,
May, and then we got...
I'm good.
Sorry. We didn't get much until May, and then we said, 31 quests? 2 raids?
Yep.
In 6 months? Wow.
Yeah, the back half of the year was really packed for sure.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, with as many as we're getting on the big picture, I'm good with that. Like,
Mhm.
even though, like, I don't like going so many months without it, like, we got, in the long run, we have tons of stuff, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, like, what's the preferred balance there, I wonder? Like, and, it's not totally abnormal. We talked about this a little bit last time. It's not totally abnormal, right, that we were getting 4 or 5 updates the last couple years, but, like, the one in December... We got Ravenloft one year and then didn't get something for a little while, but like the one that comes out later in the year, typically, where Update 44 lands, last couple of years hasn't been very much content in that. Like Tower of Frost was one of those updates. Lost at Sea, right? Like small updates, more other engineering kind of stuff.
I think when you combine it too with all the just systems changes or mechanic stuff. I mean, you talked about a revamp of Reaper in there. There was just so many other things that were going on as well.
Right.
A lot of class passes. It was a really full year overall.
Also, we're going to talk about this later on in the year. They were probably secretly working on a lot of the really good surprises we got later on.
Yeah. It feels like they flipped the script on us a little bit, right? Because I'm looking at my list here, and update 41 and 42 had a lot of features to them that outside of content. And then we got more content on the back half. And in the last several years, it feels like it's been the other way around, where we've gotten a lot of content more early in the year. Ravenloft came out, I think, in like December, kind of into the new year. Usually we get, bigger packs earlier in the year, and then the later updates are more features and quality of life passes and that kind of stuff. But this one, it felt like they reversed that around on us a little bit. We'll keep going chronologically, except for one thing. I'm going to kick Hardcore League after we talk about Update 43 and Update 44, because it feels like it's kind of more of a separate thing to talk about.
That's a good idea.
So Update 43 in September brought us the Soul Splitter pack. It also brought us Night Revels 2019. The big differences of Night Revels 2019 is they took out... What did they take out? Ringleader?
Yeah, Ringleader.
The world's newest
Yeah,
Ringleader?
they switched it out.
And they put in probably my least favorite Night Revels quest, Smashing Pumpkins. But the one that I chose to run just because it was as fast as I could run it. It was the best ingredients I could get of that ingredient type. So, it also had the new weapons. They expanded the weapons in there, which I liked. But feature-wise, I didn't pull out a whole lot there.
I love Night Revels. It's my favorite special event. It's a model special event. They add new stuff every year. Smashing Pumpkins did fall flat for me, though. I will say that. But I love that they expanded the weapons. I mean, that was just outstanding, having so many spectral options. The spectral dagger and the spectral throwing dagger were beautiful. Now you got spectral, mace and spectral repeater or whatever. Like, that's just awesome. I love Night Revels. I'm a huge cheerleader of it. I had fun with 2019.
Talking about the weapons, the axe had a little hiccup where it was doing like piercing damage, and I actually was hoping they would keep that, because if you hadn't noticed, when it comes to two-handed fighting, there's not a lot of piercing options. So if there's like Rakshasa is a piercing good, right? So like if you're a two-handed fighter, what you're gonna do is like switch to a rapier for a second. Like, it would be nice to have a great axe or a sword or like even a staff that, like, for some reason its base damage is just piercing anyway. So I thought that would have been nice to keep, but
maybe we'll get something
that's
with
a
the
thing.
two-handed fighting pass that's coming up.
Maybe.
I agree with
Who
you.
knows?
Piercing two-handed options would be great.
Spear.
It doesn't seem like there's any reason why we shouldn't have that. I mean, for crying out loud, they give blunt ammunition
they'd
to
have to
archers.
They'd have to redo the animations. I mean, that's the big that's the trip up there, or the piercing animations. So
I don't find
can
it to be that
understand why they
compelling of an
don't do it.
argument when in the last 2 years you've given us cloaks, tiefling tails, and mounts.
Well, here's the thing, because there is one evidence where I'm talking about, where all they have to do, it doesn't even, it could be an axe, it could be it could be a great club that just for a reason does piercing. Is the Menace of the Underdark raid has a spear that does it's a staff. It does staff animation, but it's the spear of the sky, so it does piercing damage, right?
Yeah.
So all it has to do is just be like, here's an axe. It has serrated edge, so for some reason it's piercing damage. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I have something that works against Rakshasas. Like, they don't need to add a new system or rework or add pole arms. Give my barbarian a way to break DR, even if I have to grind out this one item to do so.
So for a
I
lore
do
guy,
want them to add pole arms.
yeah. For a lore guy, I find it kind of curious that you don't know how serrations work, because that's a slashing thing, not a piercing thing.
Not in Sharn.
Not in Sharn. According to Sharn lore. I was kidding.
Oh boy.
A great club with a nail coming out of it, or
that
something.
Works.
You know.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I really like the Night Revels too. I want to just hop on that as well. It's my favorite event by far of all the events they do. It's just amazing every year. They add new stuff. I love the cosmetics, be it the Reaper armor or just the way the new weapons look. I don't know. Every year I run it a lot, and just really enjoy it a lot. It's very welcome. Much better than Cove or any of the other ones they've got.
I'm gonna
Oh, like
open
you said, Reaper plate. I gotta give 2 thumbs up to the purple plate. It's
Yeah, that one looks good.
gorgeous.
That one looks
It's
good.
amazing.
They all look good. They look the
eh,
same, just different
I'm
colors.
not sold on the green.
The
greens,
red looks like a tomato.
I'm a green fan. I'm green team. So
Green's the
I
worst.
have to disagree. Darn it.
Green's my favorite color. I just think it looks the worst. Anyways, I'm gonna open a can of worms here. We've had Night Rebels for a couple of years. How do you guys feel having been through the process of it, of having expiring ingredients? Do you feel like that? Many people have said it's your favorite event. How do you feel about that aspect of it?
Well, someone brought up Crystal Cove. Like, I feel like it would have went to the wayside of Crystal Cove if we just kept the mats. There would be no grind, no participation if you have the same 1,000 mats that you had since, because you grinded out back in 2011.
They tell us they're expiring. We know to spend them, use them up. I'm fine with it.
They provide you with a lot of really low cost options that are useful. So I don't think it's that big of a deal because you can always find something. I mean, I get a stack of the little pots that add an extra 1d6 light damage or whatever. I mean, there's lots of different options you can get in there, and make sure you don't run out of them. So yeah, I don't mind it at all that they expire. Hasn't bothered me. Maybe the keys are annoying, but that's about it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on your luck, right? How good it keep armoring, right?
The eternal candies also wear out when the real I think that should be separate, but it works out. For a majority of the year, you get these 3 little candies that can give you a little oomph. That's really handy. Extra dodge, extra this, extra that.
Yeah.
I kind of, but in my personal opinion, I feel like those should be considered items, not candy, for when candy degrades. But then again, they don't cost much to remake when the time comes.
No. All right. Any quick shout outs for colors for next year's Reaper armor?
Black.
I'm a fan of black. I like black. There's a shout out for white in the chat.
A silver.
White or yellow, I'm going to guess, is going to
Ooh.
be the color.
Silver. I'm concerned about yellow. I'm not going to lie. Yellow concerns me.
I want to go with neon pink.
Pink. Yeah, I think pink would be a popular option.
I think neon black with a black and gray base would look actually really cool.
Neon black? Like, do I even want to ask what lore that's from?
It's from Sharn.
I want to fact check. Someone fact check this crazy guy. An amber, I think would also work pretty well. Like an orangey kind of. So Soul Splitter pack. Let's talk about that. I don't know about you guys, but this quest chain did not take off with me very well. Part of it's loot, but I think more of it is when you look at Ravenloft and Sharn's quest. There's a lot of quests that kind of have explore this area, right? This confined area, but the stuff's always in the same spot. And I feel like several of the Soul Splitter packs or quests, having only run them a handful of times, there's a couple of them that it's find these things that we've randomly hidden in this large area, in 3 dimensions in one case with the source lead.
And that quest right that you're talking about, Patrick, is not one that we can just walk to if we don't like the source lead. So we have to use a source lead in that one, and I don't like that being forced to do that.
Well, here's the thing about that one. You clear a majority of the map, and the only mobs that show up after you pick up the source lead are the ones guarding the crests. And it's actually quicker to find the crest if you search for the mobs rather than the crests. So the mobs are actually there to help you find the crests, because there's a handful of mobs rather than one crest. So you're not tapping interactive object search. You can actually find it easier if you tap for interactable mobs. I actually don't know if you can consider it a chain though, because you can do them pretty much out of
Or
order.
grouping.
Yeah,
There's a central quest giver, so I'll call it a chain as long as that's true. And there's a story to them. So
I found these quests to be okay. I mean, they weren't great from a just enjoying the quests themselves or from a replayability standpoint. There's some nice loot options in there, which I think kind of helped. But honestly, this quest, the timing of it came out rough for me because I really enjoyed the hardcore league, at least initially, and this came out about the same time.
It came out
ended
during.
up not running. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came out not running it as much as I would typically when a new pack comes out, and that may have kind of colored my perception. I do like the level 17 of the heroic quests. I think that's a good place to put some quests. We didn't really have a lot of options there that
because Sharn is 15, 16, so this was 17, which I think fits really well.
Yeah, so I did like it when I was finishing out heroics to have something different to run than what I had been running in the past. That was nice, and the loot at level 17 as well was nice. It fit in well with Sharn and kind of gives you that little boost coming into epics. So
I didn't like that the gear was ML17. It makes sense that it was ML17, but like it felt like it was on par with a lot of Sharn gear. So like I felt like it could have
stuff, just different types.
So I felt like it could have been ML15, and the gear in whole outside of the sets felt like it fixed some very it only added a little help to the gear Tetris Sharn put on us, but not all of it. Like I'm having a horrible time still with the new gear, and so like it felt like, oh, this comes out, this is gonna help my gear Tetris. No, it only added one piece to solving this horrible problem called endgame build.
if I'm voting on what's worst of the year, the worst of the year for me is Loot Tetris. That's been a real challenge.
Loot Tetris ruined the game.
I agree. And I found out that they're trying to make it harder for us, and I really do not like that. We do not need them to make it more challenging for us to fit everything in. We want to split up resistance items into reflex, will, and fortitude instead of giving blanket resistance items. Oh, we want to split up PRR and MRR instead of just sheltering. Like, stop it, please.
Where's my MRR?
It's
That's
not
my
fun.
Yeah.
I need MRR.
It's a headache.
I will say that I totally get what you're saying, and I appreciate a little bit of Tetris and like re-gearing and making stuff compelling and having to move stuff around. That's fine. The splitting up of the resistances, I don't know. I guess I'm a lousy endgame gearer because I haven't really paid that close attention to it, to be honest. But I get what you're saying. Like, splitting it up makes it more difficult. I would be fine if they would like say, okay, this item will have resistance, all of them, but it's going to take up 2 of the 4 gear slots on it, right? So you only get 3 things on it. And you can do the same thing with sheltering too.
During the Wednesday live stream with Strim Tom, they actually talked about why they did the resistance thing, but for me, MRR has been the plague of all my tunes' existence. Like I've noticed, I have a cap tune that I take to raids that has 10 MRR because like I have to find something, and then once I find that thing, I have to switch around 3 other gear pieces just to make sure that he's on par. And I think that's a horrible thing to do to me. Stop doing this to me.
I agree with you. I think it wouldn't be quite so bad if they would revamp the augment system. I mean, a lot of these new gear and Soul Splitter there's one end that has 3 slots on it, but it's like, what are you going to put in those 3 slots? If we could actually use the slots to put in a lot of this stuff we're missing, that'd be great. But that just hasn't happened. So I think that's
they keep saying it's going to take a lot of time. I'm kind of at the point of like, take the time.
Yeah.
Like it's well past time to take the time. Let's do it. Like We're wrong. I like a lot of the stuff that they've done. Like that, if they did that, we probably don't get the Reaper mode pass, the experience pass, the Epic Destiny pass. Those are all probably things that fall by the wayside this last year. And I liked all of those things. Well, maybe not the Epic Destiny pass per se. Some of the stuff. But
While we're talking about Soul Splitter loot, I want to give special mention to the Freedom of Movement cloak. Wow,
sure.
finally we got a Freedom of Movement item that's something other than boots, and that is a beautiful item. And I also want to give special mention to the Dr. LaRue's Thingy Dingy necklace, because that was such a beautiful item that, ever since I made Ginger Spice in 2012 when Druids came out, there is one piece of gear that, while all my other loot changed over the years, there is one piece of gear that I was so in love with, so married to, and that was the Epic Torque, because it works so beautifully for a tanky caster. And finally, after all these years, something came along that finally made me give up my Torque. As painful as it was, that Dr. LaRue's Thingy Dingy is gorgeous, and it just was like exactly what I needed for Ginger Spice.
Can we rename that item?
The thingy
That
dingy.
needs
I
to
like
be its
that.
actual name.
I thought that was what it was.
Is it? I don't know.
Ocular implant.
My perception of the loot for Soul Splitter pack was, or my reaction was very much the loot sets that they added, I think filled in some holes from Sharn really nicely. They also happen to align very perfectly with the character builds that I have that are the lowest on my depth chart and have been shelved and not given any attention for probably going on 2.5, 3 years. So wasn't really compelling to look into running those things. We didn't really talk about it in Loot in the Sharn, but since we're there, my biggest issue with the gear Tetris is this idea that we're tying all of these sets to an armor.
Yes.
And then completely ignoring the fact that some of these armors are made for these types of builds and these classes that can use armor that's not provided. And you tie that into tying armor very concretely to MRR caps. That's what bugs me about the gear Tetris, is if you're going to keep the way they're designing the game, especially when you look at Too Hot to Handle in terms of the amount of damage that it's doing, which we didn't really talk about Too Hot to Handle in Product Nemesis, and we probably should. But when you're talking about like continuing to design raids like Killing Time, Riding the Storm Out, Too Hot to Handle, where MRR reduced damage is a major part of the raid, but you're not allowing huge populations of character builds and types to really have a chance in terms of reducing MRR, I think there's a problem there. MRR should only, in my opinion at this point, the way they're designing the game is MRR should only cap if evasion is also applied. If you're applying evasion, I get it. I understand why MRR is there. But you're capping my MRR and then giving me all this damage that could be reduced by MRR, but I don't get a reflex save to use evasion for. And I think at that point, it's not challenging or fun or gear checkers anymore. It's evasion's so powerful, we're penalizing you. And that's not fun for me.
And then you go to Sharn Docks and they're like, oh, here's a caster set that gives you multiple armors, but you have to play a Pillmaster.
I mean, I don't mind if there's a Pale Master armor set. That makes sense to me. Just like it makes sense to me that there's a healing set and a tank set and all this other stuff. Like, that makes sense to me. That's fine. By the way, I also think there should be you should be able to have a tank set that you can wear light or cloth armor for. I think there's actually a cloth armor version of it. But I don't like that I don't like being pigeonholed into an armor choice when that armor choice does not align with build choices and class proficiencies.
I agree.
Yeah,
And the only reason is because of MRR cap. That's the only reason that exists.
what's almost worse is that there are still at least one or two um, sets that they all obviously require you to wear armor, but there is not a docent choice. So
Mm,
Warforged or Bladeforged cannot use that set,
right.
and you so basically you're telling them you can't be, I don't know, a Pale Master or whatever the set is for. And that and I would think it's just such a simple, and as a matter as a matter of of practice, that they should, okay, we have this set, there's got to be a docent alternative for it. I mean, it just seems to be standard procedure that they should
There
adhere
should be
to,
a
but
choice for any
they don't.
armor, for any set, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
If you
agree.
want it, like, I'm fine with the MRR cap, just don't tie it to armor. Tie
See,
it to evasion.
gone are the like I remember back in the day when the E-Chronos set didn't have an armor, the red fence sets didn't have an armor, and then like I thought they were going back to there with the whole legendary green steel ender set didn't have an armor, and then all of a sudden like as soon as Ravenloft hit, everything was married to an armor, and it kind of does put you into this like, well, if I want this set, I'm gonna have to live with this armor, and I actually don't really like it. I don't like it. Everyone that's DPS looks the same. Everyone that's a tank looks the same. Like underneath their cosmetics, that is. It's just not cool. I guess in a way that promotes cosmetics, but I feel like that's a weird marketing strategy.
I don't think that's their intent. I mean, they're big in their stated intent with this thing is balance, right? We don't want defense versus offense is an important part of balancing. I agree. Different armors provide different sets of rules on what that defense is. That's the problem. Like I totally understand why they want an MRR cap with evasion. My issue with that is you tie the MRR cap to the armor you're wearing, not to evasion, and then you apply it to everything that you could get hit with MRR, and then they further exacerbate the problem by here's all of this damage you're going to take in a raid that MRR works on, but evasion does not.
That where my problem comes from is like, for instance, the caster set, it gives you int and all that, and the bonuses and all that. And you're like, great, I'm an int based Eldritch Knight that wears medium armor. Oh, there's no medium armor.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm gonna wear the medium armor DPS set. Oh, it doesn't boost my con or my int. It doesn't boost my DCs, or it doesn't boost anything that goes with the rest of my build. Just the aspect that I'm a melee. So
because they don't want you to have access to an armor that makes your defenses better because they've tied it to armor in the first place.
Yeah,
if you don't tie it
silly.
to armor type, every set can have every type of armor, and those build choices you make with proficiencies and what armors you can wear with different class abilities are meaningful. Those changes become meaningful. It's stupid to me to have a bard set that says this set is catering to bards that swashbuckle or not just swashbuckle, but just bards in general, and give bards an ability that says you can use medium armor and all of your bard abilities and not give them a medium armor in that set. That does not make sense to me.
I agree with what you're saying. I've always enjoyed the time when armor was craftable, like back in Dragon Touched or even with Thunder Forged, although the options there were limited. But not
and lousy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anytime armor was not in a set, though, and it was one of the slots you could really play with, that always to me was more fun and easier to kind of lay things out.
Yeah, it makes the gear Tetris easier, right? Because you're not dealing with how it impacts your MRR or what you can or can't cast or what abilities you can or can't use.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
There's a lot of good armors out there too that we just can't access anymore.
Coming back into our me off that rant and rabbit trail. Anything else we want to talk about Soul Splitter? Kind of covered it.
I do like the pack. I mean, I love the fact that we get 6 quests.
Mm-hmm.
I like that there's a few short ones in there. I really didn't like that the first one seems like a long, convoluted slog that kind of taints the whole thing. I love the final quest. I think that it is such a wonderful, like, vintage spy movie, subterranean
Interesting.
lair of the villain. Right from the moment that you descend and the music plays and you're going underwater through that elevator. Wow, that sold it to me, and I love the feel of it. And it really has, to me, it is reminiscent of an old arcade game that's not really obscure, but maybe lesser known, called Rolling Thunder, which was also like a vintage spy movie kind of a takeoff. But I love that final quest, the feel of it. But overall, I don't know. I really don't like how Sharn's like keep running to this elevator to enter the quest.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying,
That's
isn't it?
it is, and it just doesn't give that feel of flavor variety, and
It means you
I
can't red
just
box things either.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
I I just it kind of just felt like okay, it was just I was over with it so quickly.
And then they throw you like 2 quests that it's not the elevator. Now you got to go find them because you're expecting it to be the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
See,
little
yeah,
clunky.
I agree. Like the unique entrance is what really makes you feel like you're going through a thing. Like keep on the Borderland. Like each one of them had its own unique entrance, and it's like, oh, I feel like I'm running a classic module almost.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if instead of all those different caves, how different would have felt if it was just one cave that you click on to go in
Mhm.
each one of them. That really changes the feel of things. It's a subtle
I agree.
difference, but I think it really changes the feel.
I
That's
agree.
a good point. Great point. Before we move on to update 44, I want to backtrack to update 42 and talk about give a little bit of time to the raids. Project Nemesis and Too Hot to Handle. Go.
I feel like Too Hot to Handle was a horrible, awesome thing. It shocked a lot of the player base and kind of motivated and focused them. It's like, yeah, a lot of people got mad because it kind of separated the higher DPS people from the lower DPS people, but it kind of felt like people who really wanted to do it was motivated to actually improve their gameplay. So it was a very good carrot and stick kind of raid, and Project Nemesis was a good raid to add as an apology for Too Hot to Handle. That's how I kind of feel about it.
I
nice,
really like
nice way to put it.
I really like both raids for different reasons. I liked it with Too Hot to Handle. They tried some new mechanics. They're the way that a lot of time-based things where the lava comes up over time, where the wraiths they upgrade over time and go from yellow to orange to red, and all the different dynamics of that, not killing things too close, the cogs issue. I mean, I really liked the way that it was done. I think if they could control the lag, it would be an interesting raid to try and do on harder difficulties. But I think right now it's just really been hampered by that.
See, I'm going to
And I like,
disagree a little bit with Nimvind because I don't feel like that's the behavior that I've experienced with people in my guild. Because like what Asheras is saying, like the mechanics of the raid, I think are great and fun and can be challenging. The part about the raid that I think is the biggest issue and the roadblock to, hey, let's challenge ourselves and really push ourselves and come up with new tactics or whatever, is the damage. Because that raid is very much like all the stuff there does a lot of damage. And this kind of dovetails a little bit off of the MRR conversation we're having a little bit ago, but that raid to me, the design of that raid, the challenge that's presented is in the damage. And the damage is so high and out there that even on a lower difficulty, that there's not an opportunity to make yourself better, and because you're gonna take damage in that raid, and a lot of that damage is just gonna kill a lot of players. And
See,
that to me is a revisit of why I never liked Legendary Shroud, because the challenge of Legendary Shroud was take a bunch of damage. And that's
I
not challenging. That's annoying.
I think our both of our guilds have two different experience with it, because High Lords was definitely shook by Too Hot to Handle, and your guild is probably actually a little bit better at raids than like I heard of the R5, R4, and the Project Nemesis and all that. We hadn't gone there yet. So when Too Hot to Handle hit us, uh, we had meetings, conversations. There was even some disagreements, headbutts. It was a big ordeal. I feel like we're on two different sides of the bridges when it comes to Too Hot to Handle and how we dealt with it. The damage intake wasn't as much as the problem as our it felt like to us it was a DPS check, and it motivated a lot of our players. Now we have no problem doing it on normal, and that's because Too Hot to Handle really motivated us to kind of actually look at our builds and start working on optimization rather than uh, this was fun, build for the life or whatever.
I think it's definitely an overbearing raid. As somebody who loves to raid and loves to teach people how to raid, like with our teaching raids, for example, I think that normal difficulty is too overbearing. I think what is normal difficulty now should be hard difficulty. And I've even heard people say that what's normal difficulty now should be elite. I'm seeing other groups on Sarlona struggle with it still to this point that they're not completing. And I think that's really sad. Nimbin is right. It was definitely a challenge for our guild. It took us way, way, way longer to get this raid down than any raid in the history of this game. And we're raiding guild. We raid literally every single night, and it is in so many ways a DPS check. And I'm seeing now more there. I mean, there's definitely there's a learning curve. You got to learn the puzzles. You got to learn here's where the trash comes from. Here's how the levers work. You got to learn these things. So there is some learning, and there's some minimums tactics, but it's really largely just a DPS check. And now that my guildies have their Sharn gear, and they're more inquisitives, and working on DPS, I can see like how much like this is just a DPS check, because now that we're so much higher DPS than we were 6 months ago, like we're seeing almost zero, like practically zero trash in that raid now, because we're beating the boss down so fast. And that changes the experience of that raid so much, because it's the trash in that raid that gets so overwhelming. So I would really like to see, the entry for this raid is just so steep that there's not a lot. It's too hard for a lot of players to get into that raid.
You're not getting as
It's
much lag as we are, apparently. That tends
it's
to be where we get a lot
difficulty
of trash from.
prohibitive.
Oh, we had some lag runs, but I felt like and it's almost embarrassing to say, yeah, our issue was our DPS output. But I've been in some pugs where no one there was only like 3 people that knew the mechanics of the raids, not including me, and we got it done quicker than my guild did it, just because they were the top DPS of our server, and it was just like bam, bam, bam. Uh, so like that's what I realized. I'm like, okay, once you get your bottom, 5 people that know the levers, the 4 top ones, the one in the bottom for the coolant, you really just need to smack the boss so hard and so fast that the rest of the raid almost becomes obsolete.
It's like a brute force raid. I mean, as long as you have a few people that can lock down the other roles, it's just brute force at that point.
Except when you start to go higher difficulty levels, things break down really fast. And I'm gonna go back to like what you're talking about, like brute forcing a raid and like that. That's not challenge. It's just a numbers game. Like the part about that raid that should be challenging is dealing with the trash and the puzzles and stuff. But when you go up in difficulty and the damage gets a lot quicker, it's a lot harder to kill the trash because you can't instant kill orange names, and it just breaks down. It's not fun.
I give it to you. We have only done it on normal.
Yeah,
and
see, we've tried it on hard, and like the stuff that you're talking about, like I think in Arkat and Asheras can kind of tell their own experience since we're all in the same guild, but like we went through the process of, okay, how can we re-gear and make our characters better to do this raid? And the things that, and we can't get past hard because either A, lag, or B, it's just so punishing in terms of damage output.
And to speak to, like, you're saying you can't get past hard. We're doing really, really well on normal at this point, but at this point I don't have any aspirations of even trying hard. And to give people,
We do more normals than hards.
more perspective, as far as I know, there are only 2 groups in this entire game who have completed that raid on R1, and nobody beyond that. 2 groups in the entire game have completed it on R1. And that's the best anybody has done at this point, and we're 8 months into the raid.
I like the mechanics of it. I wish they would lean more into the mechanics and less on the balance, because I have never found that more damage is more fun, because you take damage. Let's talk about Project Nemesis a little bit. What do you guys think about that raid?
I love it. I really, lore wise and mechanic wise, it is really fun considering all the what went from Chain 1 and Chain 2 of Sharn. I like how Caspiel took over the crew, and he's like, okay, we're breaking this vault. I really like the bringing back the laser from Titan and all that, and all the side puzzles and all that. It's fun to teach people. It's fun to explain. It's just a really fun raid all around, and it's not what they did with this one, which is so beautiful, is that each difficulty is its own difficulty. Like normal
Sure.
is very normal. Hard, it's like it's a definite increase from normal. But then elite and R1, there's new mechanics that gets added into it. So it's just like each time you do it in each difficulty, you're gonna have a fresh new experience. It's gonna be fun. I highly suggest running this raid. If you never run it and you're nervous about it, it's easy one to jump into if you're new to it.
I think Project Nemesis is like the other side of the coin, because Too Hot to Handle to me is a great example of why damage in like DPS race is not challenging and not fun, whereas Project Nemesis, it's all about the mechanics and how mechanics can create the challenge and the fun, because there's a lot of mechanics that are going on stacked on top of each other in Project Nemesis. But that gives you so many options about how to approach doing the raid. Because just on the surface level, there's 4 mini bosses, and then at the end, a main boss. And which order do you kill them in? They each have their own special attack. How do you divide up the tanking responsibilities or cutting responsibilities? Right? Like, there's just in that part, before you even get into how do I deal with like the damage and stuff like that, the mechanics provide you with so many interesting opportunities for fun and changing things up and challenge. We've been talking about how Lava Divers just did an R5 Project Nemesis. Well, leading up to that, we went through about 5-10 different iterations of what order do we kill things in.
At least, yeah.
Like, that was a major part of figuring out how to make that raid, how to get higher and push the difficulty in that raid. But the fun came from the challenge of the mechanics, not how much damage things were doing. And things do some serious damage at that level.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a really great raid. There's, to have 4 bosses or sub bosses that each have their own special attacks and different mechanics, be it, jumping up in the air or whatever. And then having things for everyone to do. You have the side rooms that have to be done for the different elements.
How you split up your party becomes a big thing. When you split up your party?
But you've got to.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about Project Nemesis is that it is heavily punitive to melee DPS. In that 2 of the bosses, you're basically standing around for. And I get that not every archetype can be supported in every raid, but that one, there's some really nice loot in there for melees. But it kind of feels like you're going in there and standing around a lot of the time waiting for the chest. So that's my only quibble with it. Otherwise, I love Project Nemesis. I think it's a great raid, and I'm really excited that they made it, and I enjoy running it every time.
I enjoy Project Nemesis. There's a great variety of things going on in there. I like the fact that it does require some coordination. I think the difficulty of it is nicely balanced. We got normal. We completed the first time on normal, and we had normal down right away, and so that was like learning mode. The learning difficulty for us. And but stepping it up to hard, we stumbled a little bit and had to sort of step it back down to normal until we got more of our guildies trained, and now now we got hard down, no problem, and now we're trying to step it up to elite, and we're just getting to that point. We're having that same thing where it's like, okay, we really need to step up our game. And so I definitely like the difficulty. The things that irritate me about this raid: one, I don't like the tiny kill window with that laser. That's really
Yeah, that
irritating.
could be
And
bigger.
they really need to work on those tiny kill windows, like for example the phylactery in Temple of the Deathworm, the tiny window to break multiple phylacteries. They need to make these windows bigger, to when there's like timing or simultaneous kills, just a little bit bigger. And I also really don't like the randomness of people being sent into those elemental chambers.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just silly.
You can recall it and kind of retry it, but yeah,
Yeah, but that's
That's
tedium.
rough.
Yeah.
It's not
No,
fun.
I get
That
you.
part is just not fun.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. It's always great. It's like, all right, who got this room? 1 DPS and both tanks.
Right.
Let's try that
the
again.
healer,
Or
both
all the
healers and the
healers.
tank
Both
got it.
healers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come
Both
on.
healers and the laser operator.
It's silly.
Well, if you only have one laser operator, may I suggest you should train more laser operators. Um, but yeah, no, do that.
My actual big thing, my number one complaint for both raids is the loot distribution. I feel like it's very black and white. Like it's obvious that the wizard would want Project Nemesis because the goggles are there. It's obvious the druid would want, you know what I mean? Like it feels like, the tank stuff isn't too hot to handle and the sword stuff isn't too hot. Like I feel like they could have sprinkled it up so that way a class could want both raids. It
Do
feels
you
like a lot
not
of
have
range.
that experience with Baba's Hut and Strahd?
Well, I actually,
'Cause
I
I
don't
felt
know.
like I
I
did.
guess yeah, I could see that too, but I never, I think I got my stuff from there too quick, so I never really sat there and looked at it. Like I'm still working on these two raids, loot stuff,
Sure.
and I'm guessing that's why it's getting the attention of my ire is that I'm like, well, I don't have no reason to bring my cleric to this raid, but I have every reason to bring them to Too Hot to Handle, or vice versa.
Okay.
It's just not
I
fun.
agree with that on all raids. This has been a gripe of mine for a long time. Again, as someone who loves raids, we need to every single raid make sure that we're adding preferably at least a couple universally appealing items, like a cookie that does something that everybody's going to want, like a curse of blade of Jack Gibbers. Like that's kind of a universal appealing item. A freedom of movement augment. Not augment discussion aside, but something like that. Like so many people would want something like that, or some other doodad that just has something that has universal appeal, instead of being like, oh well, that raid has just a bunch of I don't want to run that raid because it's got
Sure.
nothing for me.
To bring it on
Need or
to
clicky.
bring it back on the
Universal
topic
appealing
though,
loot.
Threads of Fate? Question mark. I
Yeah.
mean, that came out basically
But
this
who-
year.
I love the Thread of Fate system. It's amazing, but who's going to be like, yeah, I want to run Too Hot to Handle because I need Threads of Fate?
Yeah, well,
Nobody.
Okay, that's a fair point. But that's too hot to handle, and that's kind of the outlier, right? I feel like.
And, and another thing is like, who the hell uses kukri? Like, kukris hadn't been cool since Midnight Greetings was the end game assassin item. Like, stop. You need to do an update where kukris are cool before you start adding kukris to the game. I'm tired of.
All right, I think this is what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna wrap this one up. We'll do a part 3, and we'll cover update 44 and kind of hit some of the other stuff. So thanks for joining us. Hey, check out twitch.tv/Vooduspyce for Vooduspyce's stuff, including teaching raids, which you can find on the Starlona forums. Did I miss anything there? Or your YouTube page for
Yep.
Vooduspyce. And same for Nimvind, twitch.tv/Nimvind. You can check him out there as well. So we'll be back next week for part 3. Unless you're listening live, we're going to keep going. Woohoo! But that's going to wrap it up for this week. So if you have... thanks to these guys for joining me. It's been kind of a long recording session. We're still going. And thanks to everyone for listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. Find me on social media at DDOCast on Twitter for the latest cast updates. If you'd like to join the discussion, leave a comment or email us. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.